it's going to be a big summer for wrestling. It's going to be a very, very big summer for wrestling. It's going to be a big summer and a bigger fall for the WWE. AEW, they have a big WWE issue. We're going to talk about that. Some huge names are coming to the WWE Performance Center, and I can just picture a Rocky montage in my mind as Sasha Banks gets ready to come back and really piss people off on the internet. We're diving headfirst like Ricochet onto John Morrison into a crash pad that you didn't see off camera, but we're still applauding the whole thing. It is an in-depth conversation. Go deep. That's Rick Ucchino. I'm Kev Kellam. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling's Inside Kradle. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Rick Ucchino, how are you?
Pat McAfee would call that a piss missile. That's what Pat McAfee would call that. That Ricochet dive onto John Morrison. Everybody was wondering what the hell a piss missile is when he dropped that on Thursday or on Friday. That's what that is. Ricochet just flying into John Morrison with just throwing all caution to the wind.
I don't think I've seen we had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view where everyone just, Hell in a Cell social media wise is like a tweet fest, right? There's so many different things in it, right? That are so violent and crazy, and you'll see people like share the GIF, right? I saw more people share that moment of a springboard from the middle of the rope, executed perfectly maneuver from Ricochet onto John Morrison off the barrier. Yeah. Something I think they could only do in the Thunderdome. I don't think you can do that.
No way. You can't know. And that's why I applauded. I'm like, look, you guys got 2 weeks left until you have a crowd back. So whatever you can't do in front of a live audience, get it done. Get it out.
That happened. If you didn't see it, it happened on Monday Night Raw. Seek it out. Great match too. Really, really great match. Did a lot for both guys.
We get those two guys in Money in the Bank in a couple of weeks. On top of Riddle, on top of Big E, and now Drew McIntyre, which is something we'll talk about coming up here in a few minutes.
Am I not wrong? Like there is this. I think there's, with all of the sad things that happened in WWE recently, unfortunate things. A lot of people getting let go, right? Yeah. And a lot of we had the big debate on last week's episode about the WWE writer Kenise Mobley being released. You guys can go check out that. We also had, and if you're watching our YouTube, go watch the debate between you and Sid with Judge Dutch Mantel holding the gavel.
I got to give Sid credit. He's a great debater, maybe even a master of it.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Hey, it's Rick. It's Rick in the Booger in the morning.
He does a great job, though, of changing the topic of the argument to best suit his argument and help him win. But I caught it, though. I caught on.
I believe this argument is called deflection. We're having quite a good time here, and if you're with us on demand, go ahead and get in the comments below. We want to know what you think. We will respond to you. If you're watching this in a video version, let us know what you think as well. Also, to our friends checking out the video channel on Facebook, you want to get with us on YouTube. We're going to be moving a lot of things in the weeks over there exclusively over to YouTube. You'll still get a ton of video content with this, a ton of different live streams and stuff like that. But a lot of our big long form shows like this are going to be exclusive to YouTube in the future. And if you want to enjoy this on-demand audio, a big chunk of, an hour plus of us talking to wrestling, you can get it in your ears as well. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, available on Spotify, a lot of different podcasting apps, and give us a 5-star review. Throw up the old Jim Duggan thumbs up on that. You see the buttons down there. Don't not press the buttons, okay? Don't not press the buttons. All right, we talked about this. Forward momentum in the WWE, all right? We've talked for weeks. Sasha Banks now, you can add to the list of big name talents that are coming back to WWE that they've held off on bringing back. We know that there's something happening with John Cena in the WWE within this year. How serious it is, we don't know exactly just yet. And we have people coming back to the Performance Center. Vince McMahon going to the Performance Center reportedly to see how people are tuning up for their matches. People having matches in front of no one to get ready to get this show back on the road. WWE announcing even more dates, confirming their Madison Square Garden shows and a handful of other events through the end of the year. It's good momentum. I mean, we can talk about all the bad things. A lot of people released, but there's some good momentum and some big changes are in the future for WWE here.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing is with these talents showing up, the Sasha Banks, in particular, She hasn't been seen since WrestleMania. So, I mean, this is, hey, we're getting ready to go back on the road. It's all hands on deck, which is why I think you're seeing people take time off. Like Kevin Owens was supposed to take a little bit more time off. I think he'll probably lose to Sami Zayn on Friday and then take a little bit of an extended break and then come back before you go out on the road. But they're getting ready, man. This is all hands on deck. And this is what we've been hearing for the longest time. Maybe kind of bit of more of an excuse than anything, but we're saving the good stuff, right? We're saving the good stuff until we go back out on the road. And that's what you're starting to see the build up toward. That's what you're starting to see movement behind the scenes with Sasha Banks and a few others showing up at the Performance Center. Now, Vince being there, that's a horse of a different color. That is him scouting out talent because he's got a depleted roster and he knows it. And he's looking for people who can fill it, or he's looking.
I wouldn't say it's
NXT stars to bring up, and then he's looking at other people at Performance Center.
Yeah,
to fill in an NXT.
I wouldn't say he's a depleted roster. I think they have a bunch of pairings that have been played out. They have a bunch of things that they've staled as much as they could, and I think part of it is repetition in the Thunderdome. Like they just have these screens, they just have social media to go with, they just have the studio setting. There is some creative limitations to that. And that isn't me giving them a pass, right? There's been a bunch of stuff like, why are we doing this? What is the point of this? Why do you have to do this match over and over again? And then there's other things they're doing. I was like, that's really creative. That's very, I like that. That's very, very cool. And then there's just some people who naturally have ran their course. Drew McIntyre could be that to a degree. People think, talented guy, great guy, but I've seen a lot of him. I've heard a lot of people present that here. The shakeups are big. The returns, I think, are to be just as big. You can't tell me people aren't going to pop when they see Sasha Banks back out there, when they see a Becky Lynch back in the ring, when they hear a John Cena come out here in just a few weeks. I think there's gonna be, you always show me the pop there. You're shaking it like you're precious. You're precious. It's gonna be a big happy time for WWE. And I think there's still going to be people that are going to be pissed off at them when they come back and be even more pissed off when they see people enjoying it. And they're like, well, I've been investing all this time being so angry and against WWE that you are having fun with it. Come on now. This isn't what it's about.
And this is where, man, I want to be happy and I want to notice the positives moving forward. I do. I'm genuinely an optimistic guy. And I think the last two episodes of Monday Night Raw have really been a huge step forward. But man, yeah, there's just obviously there's a lot of change happening in WWE, and there's a lot of negative coming out about the company, and there's a lot of the things that I disagree with the way they're going about doing things, especially how they've released talent and backstage staffers. And there were more releases today at WWE headquarters. Reportedly, I believe PW Insider was on that. And it still just, it sticks in my craw. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So while, yes, I want to be excited that Sasha's coming back and Becky's coming back and we're going to get, John Cena versus Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus Edge, probably at SummerSlam as your top two matches. I think Big E could win Money in the Bank, and all of that genuinely excites me. There's still just that, I don't know, it's just, I'm kind of tired of the business aspect of it. Like it's dwindling me down to the point where I almost can't enjoy what is good about the on-air product. And I hate that it's like that. And then I hate reports like this that come out today from Andrew Zarian saying WWE talent and staff shakeups are something I was told would be more common heading into the new era for the company. Now, I can get behind shaking things up and keeping things fresh and moving people out of scenes and changing things. But if talent and staff shakeups are going to be more releases every couple of months, no, I'm not for that at all. And he said because they were needed. That was the big thing. It's like he asked why. They said, to be honest, it's needed. I get freshening things up, but if that means releasing people constantly and then bringing other people in, I don't know if I can get behind that, man. I don't
Isn't
like
that the nature of the beast, though? When they have that many people in the Performance Center and you've invested so much time in that as a foundational element of what you do, that people get let go. Now, is the new version of that, you're going to release a lot of people and then suddenly bring up a lot of people, and so it's also, I think part of it is like, we're back on the road. How many people do we actually need? I think there's just been this, with Nick Khan taking over a central role in the company, there's been a big reevaluation of what do we actually need? And then the speculation can begin. Is this just all moves to make the revenue stream change in a way that makes this like a lucrative company that people want to buy. I think any major media company would want to buy WWE because of their tape library and the branding and everything. This company is already worth billions and billions of dollars to anyone who wants to come in and buy it. This isn't going to be a light buy, but are we getting this thing with a ton of debt? Are we getting this thing with a ton of overhead to it? Or are we going to get a streamlined, nice, clean electric car version of WWE? Or are we getting a Cadillac that sucks up a lot of gas?
Yeah, there's some validity to your argument there, because one of the biggest knocks on WWE for years has been the hoarding, the absolute hoarding of talent. Having people, like, God rest his soul, Brody Lee, just sitting on the bench for essentially 2 years before you finally released him from his contract, and he was able to go off and do great things in his short time in AEW. And just having people like Breezango in the company for 14 years and never properly utilizing them until you just, cut them free. Misusing people like the Iconics, misusing people like Aleister Black. You have these people who are main event level stars that you don't do anything with, or you don't see the value that we, the fans, see. And you got to sit there and you got to go, what the hell are we doing? And that's the other thing about it, is like, the fans and the company, I think a lot of the fans anyway, aren't on the same level when it comes to evaluating the talents or getting, invested in certain talents. Like, we wanted to see Aleister Black get a main event push, not get released. And now we're excited that he's getting released because he could possibly go to AEW, where we have more faith that he'll be properly utilized. Like, that's not what you want if you're WWE.
And also, I think there's going to be this issue with AEW. Like, who are we going to take? Who are we going to get from them? Like, are we going to take everybody from them? Or should we stick with the people that we already invested time with on television? And I keep saying that every time someone's out of WWE, it's like they're going to AEW. That isn't the case.
No, they don't have the spots.
No.
I'm stunned that they brought in Sting, Christian, Paul White, Mark Henry. Some people are slam dunks, right? Like, you bring in Andrade. That makes a shit ton of sense. You bring him in, no doubt about it. Tommy End, aka Aleister Black, yeah, you bring him in because he's a bona fide superstar and you know it. Some of these other folks, yeah, they don't have room. They don't have room on the roster in AEW. And right now, by the way, I think they're also aren't they running in the red right now because of some video game stuff that they were doing. So they're not.
They are operating with a deficit of money. And Tony Khan was open about that, because they are betting on a huge merchandise rollout of their video game system. And they have a multi version of that. They already have mobile games out right now. I haven't played them. I don't know how fun those games are, but I've heard some. This is a fine game. This is a fine game to play. But that big console game they're working on is ideal, and there is a hole in that market. WWE had a game that came out that a lot of fans didn't respond to recently.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. The glitches were, whoo. It was time to stop and reassess.
Sure. And now they kind of come in.
Let's just say they put more time into marketing that video game than they did actually developing the video.
They always have great marketing for those games, though. They always have fun marketing for those games.
I feel so bad that was Becky Lynch's game.
The cover.
Yeah, the cover. She was on the cover with Roman, and it's the worst one of all time.
We tease this here. Number 2 topic of the show. It is Tag Team Month on WWE's digital outlets, resourcing the great archive they have. And they put out this multi-part series of counting down the top 50 tag teams of all time. It's always a big debate. Who is your favorite tag team of all time? Who's your favorite? All time?
Gosh, man, it's hard for me to go against Edge and Christian.
We're those kids of a certain age,
I started in 1998, man. The Brood, that was my shit back in the day. Still the greatest entrance of all time in my opinion. Watching Gangrel and Edge and Christian come up through the fire, you can hear the music. I saw your head bobbing. You can hear it. The flame surrounding the riser as it comes up through the entrance ramp there. It was good, man. And I hopped on board with those guys really quickly. And I'll always have a special place in my heart for those guys and anybody who helped put TLC on the map. I'll throw the Dudleys in there as well. Yeah, those were my guys back in the day, and they still are my guys.
So WWE has named their top 50 teams, and they went with New Day as number 1. Do you think this is just a sign of, who's the top team in the last 10 years, and they kind of inclined to go that way and really make sure the young fans get their team get in the top spot, because you know that new wrestling fans under 25 something, that I'm not trying to be an ageist, really love the upheaval. They really love something that's new becoming iconic. They like saying this isn't a shot at the Iconics. They like saying that somebody who's young is suddenly iconic, when iconic status is something that is earned over time. It's something that can be made overnight.
I think they gave the spot to the New Day because they've earned it. To be completely honest with you, if you look at the top 5, Dudley's, Edge and Christian, Hart Foundation, Hardy Boys, and New Day. I mean, the none of those teams are spring chickens, shall we say. New Day's been around for 6-7 years at this point. I mean, all those guys are veterans, but I mean, I don't think that's placating to the younger crowd at all. I think the New Day, they just got it right, and they're finally giving these guys the respect that they deserve. I mean, you're talking about 11-time tag team champions. You're talking about a group that actually has some longevity. This is the one team that has vowed to never turn on each other, to never break up one another. And now WWE split them up, but there's still the New Day. We saw Big E come out with them and introduce Kofi and Woods at WrestleMania this year. And if they all end up on the same brand, they will still be the New Day. And they have an opportunity here to not only be the greatest tag team of all time, but elevate themselves into the top factions of all time, especially if you start putting some singles championships on these boys. We saw Big E win the Intercontinental Championship. If Kofi, maybe he gets his hands on the WWE title, or maybe Big E gets his hands on the WWE title. If Xavier Woods does win the King of the Ring, like we all hope he does this year, whenever they get that tournament going, I mean, you're going to start looking at these guys building on singles success on top of all of their tag team success, on top of the fact that they have, the entertainment value, man. They have just been so damn good at what they do for so long,
and within the WWE system where that can be challenging.
Yes, absolutely. These are guys who were all afraid they were going to get released from the company. They had to bet on themselves. They had to do something. They put themselves together. They did that awful preacher thing that Vince McMahon wanted for a while, knew it wasn't working, and slowly started to transform themselves, and it worked, and they took off. And they are, without a doubt, the best group and the best tag team, the most successful tag team in the history of the company. And a lot of that has to do with longevity. If
you want to debate that, because you're talking about Legion of Doom, you're talking about the Dudleys, you're talking about a handful of other teams you could put in that conversation, right? But if you want to say the best tag team in the last 10 years, absolutely. Bar none. Like the best. Them and the Usos are like right there. And also remove yourself from that. Like, remember like mid 2000 to 2010, everyone's like, WWE tag team wrestling fell off like right after some teams broke it up, and it was all TNA. It was all like what the Dudleys were doing there. It was all America's Most Wanted and Beer Money and all that stuff, and NXT and all these different things. But Raw, Smack, no. But now, last 10 years, it's been New Day. It's been the Usos. It's been them having these bangers. And so kudos to WWE in that regard.
And here's the thing, though. You look at this list, man. There are some like you could debate whether or not you could flip Edge and Christian Hart. You could honestly shuffle up the top 5, and I don't think
they had a list. They had a list like almost 10 years ago where Edge and Christian were number 1.
Right. And here's the thing: the Usos could very easily work themselves into the top 5. They have plenty of time. They can work themselves into the top 5 right now. If you look at the top 10, we'll run that down: British Bulldogs, Brothers of Destruction, New Age Outlaws, Usos, Legend of Doom, and then the 5 that we talked about already: Dudley's, Edge and Christian, Hart Foundation, Hardy Boys, and the New Day. Usos have a chance. You could talk about New Day and Usos at one point being 1 and 2 on this list. I could see that. They have plenty of time, and especially the momentum that's behind Jey Uso in recent months and now Jimmy, they have plenty of chances to move up. But you look at some of these other teams that don't have an opportunity to move up, and I'm sitting here going, how the hell are they that far back? How much promotion, how much money did WWE make off the Shield? And they're 22nd on this list. Now, granted, they didn't like rack up tag team wins. And I guess if we were talking about greatest factions, and that's the weird
different conversation.
Right. That's the weird thing. It's like we got a lot of people, because Undisputed Era is also on this list. They came in at number 20. DX is also on the list, but they specified that as only Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and they came in at 21.
Well, then you could do New Age Outlaws, and they get their own slot though too.
Right. And then they were there at number 8. So I mean, it's like, They have groups that have 4 people.
Oh, you didn't know they could do a different slot? Sorry, I don't want to get my stuff in there.
Yo ass better call somebody.
Yo ass better call somebody. Let's get into this. Entertaining night for Riddle, but was Raw entirely pointless. A lot of redundancy on Monday Night Raw. There was some really entertaining stuff on Raw in the ring. There were some surprising things. I'm a sucker for a good battle royal, but this was a battle royal.
Was a good battle royal. Case in point, that's about as well as you could book a battle royal, because battle royals are usually pointless. I've talked to bookers, who hate them. Dutch Mantel, who was with me on Smack Talk on Friday night, is not a fan of battle royals, but this one was booked about as well as you could possibly book. A lot of storyline progressions in one match. We saw the return of Damian Priest. There was a nice moment there between Ali and Mansoor for sure.
They did stuff with the 24/7 title at ringside. It felt like a little mini Rumble.
Yeah, it was very well booked. It moved a lot of things forward. The question I have is, did they make the right call by having Matt Riddle win this? And Raw opened up with the mysterious disappearance of Randy Orton. He was not there. Randy Orton was supposed to compete in the last chance Money in the Bank qualifying match with AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre. He did not wind up in that match because he could not be there to compete. So they were like, here's the battle royal. We're going to have the winner of this match. He's going to enter the main event for the night. Matt Riddle talks his way into the match as a representative for Randy Orton. So Riddle's trying to get Orton into the match. He wins the battle royal, goes on, has a banger of a main event, but loses. So the whole night was built around Riddle and getting Randy Orton into the Money in the Bank ladder match. And he loses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here going, okay, all of that was really cute. And I get, him trying to get Orton into the match as a way to, improve their bromance that they got going on here.
The odd couple pairing they have, where Randy does not want this guy to be his friend, and Riddle just wants to be friends with Randy Orton, bro.
Yeah, but Randy can't help but like him, and that's the thing. You can slowly see it every time they interact with each other. Like Randy, he doesn't want to like this guy, but he does. But he also doesn't want to show that he likes this guy, which makes the dynamic all that much more better. So, Riddle's out there doing the Orton arm lift and saying, no, give me Randy's music when I win and this stuff. But at the end of the day, he loses. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, okay, if he was going to fail ultimately anyway, wouldn't they have been better served by helping build somebody else instead of just having Riddle lose that match? Not only lose the match in the main event,
and also like somebody lower on the card who could lose the match would be okay. But then getting the rub of main event on Monday Night Raw, main event match with 2 bigger stars, put a Mansoor in there, and he just gets to hang one night with 2 big guys like Styles and McIntyre. And oh wow, look at he hung in there. Wow, they could do something with him.
Right, exactly. Or you take a guy like Damian Priest,
perfect,
and have him win the main event and put him in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Because if you look at the guys who are in the Money in the Bank ladder match,
but then he's going to go to SummerSlam and Bobby Lashley's going to beat him in a squash match. Bobby Lashley told us that last week on the show.
That was great. He was joking.
It was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
See, 2 weeks ago. He was joking, by the way, but you can see that entire interview up on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel.
His snapback on you when you present that, he's like, so you want me to have a squash match?
He had it locked and loaded. He was going to do that no matter what, and it was great. It was good on him. He was really, really fun to talk to.
That popped me. I thought that was fun.
But I would have done a guy like Damian Priest, had him win, and then put him over Drew and AJ as a way to help elevate him. Because when you look at the Money in the Bank ladder match, there's one guy who sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's Drew McIntyre. Because you have Riddle, you have John Morrison, you have Big E, and you have Ricochet. All of these guys who need that Money in the Bank ladder match to elevate themselves up on the card. And then you have Drew McIntyre, who has been in the title picture for the better part of 18 months now, and is now supposed to be out of it. He can't challenge Bobby Lashley. Like, people were genuinely happy that he lost that match because it meant he couldn't challenge for the WWE Championship.
And there would be some type of shakeup in terms of people that step up.
Exactly. So is this the question? Does them deciding to put Drew in Money in the Bank now hurt him in the eyes of the fans who are already getting Drew fatigue?
But is there some way that Money in the Bank, which is supposed to be this like magic bullet solution for anybody that wants a title match, right? Because they can use it whenever they want. Is he somehow not able to use that on Lashley?
That's my question. I don't know.
And I would say that's the only interesting part. Like I'm not the only interesting, but it is an interesting thing that WWE could have that retcon switch they can pull there, and say like, listen, you won this, but you said, you said if you didn't beat him, you said if you didn't beat him, you wouldn't challenge him anymore.
Which makes me wonder, are they just going to end up putting the briefcase on Drew McIntyre as a way to set him up with Roman Reigns?
Which I'm okay with long term. That's long term thinking. And also, like, McIntyre and Reigns had a fantastic one-off, one-night Raw versus SmackDown WWE Champion versus Universal Champion thing at Survivor Series, and they had one of the best matches of the year anywhere in wrestling. Find some matches. They were up there. They were up there with Tokyo and stuff. They were up there with some of the best Double or Nothing AEW things. That was a really great match, and they had some very good chemistry back and forth in the ring.
I would have no problem whatsoever with Drew McIntyre facing Roman Reigns at some point down the line, but I do think you got to give Drew a break, unless your goal is to turn him heel, which I think we've seen hints of that in his character recently, because he's been showing mass disrespect to the backstage interviewers in recent weeks with his history teacher, type stuff that he's been
as
doing.
A backstage interviewer, I can say that is when a superstar suddenly falls out of favor with the fans. If you can't take care of the little people like me doing stick person work backstage, come on now. Well, let's.
It's a total heel move to just dump on the little guy, to dump on the guy who is there to just basically be a microphone stand. Like, his job is basically pointless. It is basically pointless, the backstage interviewer job.
Right. Are you saying when I'm backstage at AAW coming up, United We Stand, July 9th on Fight TV, that I'm going to be pointless? That I'm getting the suit out of this closet, pressed and cleaned? Pointless?
Kev, I am also a backstage interviewer and ring announcer, and yeah, I can say without a doubt our jobs are pointless.
Thanks for blowing up our spot, Rick.
This is a conversation for another day, but I think the backstage interviewer position is totally underutilized in the world of professional wrestling and could be so much better, and is in a bad need for an overhaul. Not of the people doing it, but how they're utilized.
Do some fun stuff with that on digital. Like, WWE has a ton of different video platforms they could do some really fun things with. Though we brought up the New Day, the way they made fun of Tom Phillips years ago, where they would goof around with him about how he would do the wide leg stance because you're not supposed to be taller than the people you interview. Like that like do funny things like that. That's just my take here. Yeah. But Money in the Bank, I think the men's Money in the Bank is looking pretty strong right now.
It is. I would feel a lot better if Damian Priest were in it other than Drew McIntyre.
They're going to do something with him.
I think it's a mistake. If Drew is going to win this match, I think it's a mistake. Unless your goal is to turn him heel, I think it's a mistake. You need to give him, because fans are fickle, man. They want to see something different. I'm not saying Drew should be gone from the title picture forever. I'm not saying Drew shouldn't end up with Roman Reigns at some point down the line. I'm just saying, let's have him square off with Jinder Mahal for a while, or let's have him fight somebody else and take him out of the title picture. Give him something meaningful just to get a break, just to get a little bit of break, give the fans something else to watch. And I think that would be better. But right now, I wouldn't put the Money in the Bank on him.
We'll ask the question right now, what do we want? Because right now is important. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll talk about AEW's WWE problem. All Elite Wrestling has a WWE issue, in some ways good, in some ways bad. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But right now, that Money in the Bank briefcase, we're a few weeks away. I think is one of the more anticipated Money in the Banks in quite some time. It will be in front of live fans in Houston, Texas. It will be rocking in Houston. Friday Night SmackDown, just a few days prior, will be WWE's big live return. I think that's the right way to do it, by the way. Do that on free television, get people pumped, get people talking. That's your A show in terms of viewership right now. That's a smart move. And then bump right into a pay-per-view that you can do on your streaming service just 2 days later. But that Money in the Bank briefcase for you right now, 2 weeks out, what we got, who's in play, who gets that briefcase, they get the rocket shot to the top of the card, or at least could at any point they want when they want to use it. Who do you put that briefcase on right now?
Given the fact that they have a massive hole at the top of the card, especially amongst the baby faces, right? We know Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley are the two big dogs in the yard right now, but they need credible marquee opponents. You got to start building some people up. That's part of the reason why I think Drew McIntyre doesn't make a lot of sense to get the Money in the Bank, when you can easily use that briefcase to elevate somebody who is beyond ready for their push, who has the talent for it. I think all of these guys are excellent candidates. But if it's me,
I'm
going with Big E. I'm going with Big E right now. He's ready. You heard him say it on SmackDown. Finally, this stuff with Apollo is over. The 14 straight weeks of wrestling Apollo is done. He's ready to get back on track. He's ready to get elevated to the main event. And I think it would make a ton of sense. And this is John Alba's idea, not mine, but I just love it. And I'm going to bring it up and hopefully help manifest it. Kofi Kingston loses at Money in the Bank to Bobby Lashley after Big E wins the Money in the Bank ladder match. Kofi Kingston's getting beat down by Lashley after the match because that's what Bobby Lashley does.
Here comes Big E. He makes the save. He doesn't cash in because that's not what Big E does. He's not going to take the easy way out. He's not going to cheap shot Bobby Lashley and cash in. No. But it's clear he's coming to Monday at Raw, and here's how he's doing it.
Right then and there, he challenges Lashley to a match at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship, and Big E wins at SummerSlam, clean as a whistle over Bobby Lashley. That is how you put someone over. That is how you help make a star. You realign the New Day on Monday Night Raw, and all of a sudden, these guys, again, like I was talking about earlier, can start working their way up towards, the top 5 factions of all time. Maybe you put the United States Championship on Kofi Kingston while Big E's your WWE champion. Xavier Woods, put some respect on his damn name, Kofi Kingston says on Monday. He wins King of the Ring. All of a sudden, you got the WWE champion, the United States champion, and the King of the Ring in one faction on Monday Night Raw, ruling ass.
Ruling ass. Are we still? We're still in Warlow gimmicks. No. Who am I thinking of?
That was oh god, Ready to Rumble. That was Ready to Rumble. That was the
ruling ass.
Yeah. That's what I would do with New Day. I love that idea. I love that prospect. Finally elevating Big E to where he should be. And then you give him a big dominant freaking title run, and New Day can just, again, own everything on Monday Night Raw.
I want to remind you, by the way, we haven't said this. We're going to be talking to Tommaso Ciampa from WWE.
Oh, yeah, we got that little thing we got coming up.
We'll have a piece of our upcoming interview with him ahead of NXT's Great American Bash here within this episode. So, but that full interview coming out on our channel in a few days. So you'll see that hear that within this episode. But we're talking Money in the Bank. Who do you put that briefcase on right now? It is an exciting prospect. Looking at who they have in the men's Money in the Bank, there's 3 of these names in the middle of the card. All need a boost, but all are liked and beloved in their own way. Riddle, Ricochet, John Morrison. John Morrison and Ricochet had themselves a Lucha Underground match on Monday Night Raw this past week. As we mentioned, that highlight they made, I think these guys are going to steal the show. Yes. They're not going to win this match, but Ricochet and John Morrison proved on Monday night, you let us do some wild, crazy shit, and we're going to do it in a ladder match. And we're going to do a ladder match in front of a crowd, and we're going to do some insane things. And if you're sleeping on Ricochet and you're saying, why are they doing anything with Ricochet? And it's stop and start, and he's so near the bottom of the card, and why didn't he go to AEW? Why didn't he go to, and then boom, here he is doing triple Lindy moonsaults off like 2 stacked ladders, right? They're going to do some insane stuff.
Oh, it's going to be a good match for sure.
Yeah, and the crowd is going to be wowed by Ricochet and John Morrison, and there's more heat in that tank for them to do some fun things this summer. Riddle can be silly. Drew McIntyre can be angry. Maybe we get a character change and we go with Big E. I don't mind you there. Let's jump over the women's side of this. There is a bit of an issue here. WWE has a lot of strong female talent, but I don't want to see it feels like odds and ends in this match, but it feels like a lot of reboot for characters they've already spent a lot of time on here. We have in the women's match currently Asuka, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, the new Nikki Ash, superhero Nikki Cross.
Almost superhero.
You couldn't have just called her Captain Cross, Change that, dude. Get away from that.
Hang on, something just hit me. Lightning just struck my brain. Do you think they're getting ready to bring up Kariron Kross, and that's why they're changing Nikki's name to Nikki Ash?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And then that's a marketing licensing thing. Everyone who gets mad about those name changes is when someone's name is too close to another person. Yeah. That's a marketing thing. That's for your advertisers and people you do merchandise with and your licensees and stuff like that. I'm my name is Kevin, but when I'm on air with QLZ Monday through Friday doing rock radio. I'm Hef. I go by my middle name because we already have another Kevin here. So
is your middle name Hefner?
Heffernan.
Oh, okay.
Heffernan and spells Heffernan. That's the song. That's my grandmother's maiden name. She taught that to me so I could sing it as a child. So you didn't know you're getting a song. There you go. Now you have to hit thumbs up. Now you have to hit thumbs up.
Why not? We sing on this show sometimes. Remember that one time I did the Bengals fight song?
Go in the catalog. Another reason to listen to the old shows, not just topical. So looking at the field here, who wins this thing? Who wins this?
Who actually wins it?
Yeah.
I think it's
right now. Right now, the Money Bank happens tomorrow. Who wins this? Who wins this title?
I think there's only two legit contenders in the match right now. And I think it's either Nikki Cross or Alexa Bliss based on how they've been booked recently.
Yeah.
I don't look at, and this is insane to say, but I don't see Asuka as a serious competitor at all. The way that the booking has been built up.
Which is so sad because she, I mean, in the pandemic era, she was really holding the show together.
Absolutely. Until they just stopped having her defend the championship when it was pretty clear that they just didn't have anything that they wanted to do of any significance for her. After Sasha and Bayley and that whole feud ended, she really didn't do anything until she dropped the title to Rhea Ripley. And even that build was only 3 weeks long. She only defended it on a pay-per-view like twice in September, and then she lost it at Money in the Bank. So yeah, I don't consider her to be a viable contender, nor do I consider Naomi because she's getting squashed by Doudrop every week at this point. So I don't really consider her to be a viable contender either, and I don't expect Carmella to be either. So of other people in the match right now, it's Nikki Cross debuting that new character, Nikki Ash, whatever she wants to be called, and Alexa Bliss, who has been the main focus of the women's division on Raw for several weeks now. I think Alexa Bliss is going to win it based off the competitors that are there now. I would put it on Nikki Cross.
I think Nikki Cross, tie the rocket to her. You know, make this a fun summer with baby faces that you can pop for.
If that gimmick is going to work, the booking has to be there. The booking has to be strong. She has to be booked seriously. Hurricane Helms was a very successful character, but he could never break out of that comedy trope. He was never able to just ascend to something greater. Iconic character, but never ascended to anybody who could be taken seriously as a competitor. Nikki Cross is building up wins. Granted, some of them are fluky, but she's building up wins. She's pinned Shayna Baszler twice now in the last few weeks. Put the briefcase on her. Put the briefcase on her. Have her cash in on Rhea Ripley after she beat Charlotte at Money in the Bank. And I know the women's Money in the Bank winners have cashed in all within a day. The last few of them. But I'm putting that title on Nikki Cross. I'm strapping her to the moon. I'm letting Charlotte and Rhea just fight each other for the next few months because they don't need the title to do that. And let's see what Nikki Cross can do. Give her an opportunity.
Let's jump into the men's title matches. I know I'm sharing the graphics here from WWE.com on our screen here.
Yeah, Edge returning this week. That was big.
Edge returning this week on SmackDown. I know you guys were into that segment on Smack Talk. I loved that. I thought it was maybe it was, I wouldn't say predictable, but it was a very fun return. And he sent Roman Reigns for a good powder, running out of the ring, saving the day. Did do that.
The only thing, and I think you were just about to say, the only thing he did is he's looking dead at the camera. Where are you at, Roman?
Where are you at? Where are you at, Rick? Rick, where are you? I'm going to turn over here. I'm going to look over here, Rick. Where are you, Rick? Rick, where are you?
I don't know.
You're down there?
I don't know if Roman screwed up and he was supposed to be gone, but Edge, he's up there. He's on the ramp.
Or somebody shot Roman and they weren't supposed to put the camera on Roman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's probably it. It's probably more of a production thing. Like they took it and he's like, oh, crap. No, God dang it. Take it off. And then Edge is like, where are you at, Roman? Let's go. I'm working the hard cam. I'm working the hard cam so hard I can't even see you in my peripheral vision. Let's go.
So we get Edge back on pay-per-view, and he gets to shake things up. Now, mind you, he got stacked and racked and crashed, all those things that Roman has been saying at WrestleMania. A lot of people thought it was an assumed thing that he was going to leave with the title at WrestleMania, and they did not do that. They stuck with the hot hand that is Roman Reigns in his heel character, possibly the most over villain in all of wrestling. Sorry, fans of Kenny Omega. He's a little bit more over as a heel right now. And so what do you think here? Is Edge going to shake things up before SummerSlam? I don't think so. And I think you're going to have another frustrated version of Edge where he just cannot understand why he cannot reassume his destiny. And he came back for 11 years. It's going to grit my teeth.
He's back to take Daniel Bryan's spot as the top babyface on SmackDown, at least heading into SummerSlam. At least until John Cena comes back. This is a giant smokescreen. This is WWE going, okay, we need to fill between now and SummerSlam. Who is there who's ready to challenge Roman Reigns? The answer was nobody. You didn't have anybody after he decimated Rey Mysterio. You needed to bring somebody in who has some clout, who has some equity, who has a beef with the guy, and a guy who you can easily move into something else after Roman Reigns wins at Money in the Bank. And Edge is the guy. Edge is absolutely 100% the guy. And you know why he's not going to win at at Money in the Bank? Is because Seth Rollins is going to ensure that Edge does not win at Money in the Bank, because Seth Rollins is pissed off now. He wants the shot at Roman Reigns. He didn't get it. It was given to Edge. That's the catalyst. We are going to get Edge versus Seth Rollins. I believe it's going to happen at SummerSlam, and it is going to be effing awesome. Think about that. Your top 2 matches for SummerSlam on SmackDown are going to be John Cena versus Edge, according to reports. Or excuse me, John Cena versus Roman Reigns, and then Edge versus Seth Rollins. You could do a whole lot worse than those 2 for SummerSlam.
Let's scroll up and check out this one. This has been put together on Monday at Raw. Some people into it, some people not too into it. I'm on the fence. I don't know how I feel about Bobby Lashley taking on the ever beloved Kofi Kingston. This is Kofi's most latest shot at reacquiring world title gold and getting the WWE Championship back around his waist off a man that people feel is just locked onto this thing, for lack of a better phrase, until a big beast can pry it from his hands. In the version of Brock Lesnar that everyone assumes is coming back, but who knows? Every week it seems like it's a different story. Is this another scenario where they just want a solid match on Money in the Bank, but we're holding out something bigger for SummerSlam? I see some different shakeups. We got Money in the Bank briefcase. I think Bobby Lashley is in a more vulnerable position than Roman Reigns is to lose his title here.
I would keep it open, to be honest. I think they're going to book Lashley to win this match, but Kofi Kingston is in a really good position here because people are white hot behind him again. Dude was spitting straight fire in his promo on Raw this week. Again, asking people to put respect on Xavier's name, but reminding people who he is, what he did, what he's done, what he is capable of. And he is still one of the top performers in the ring and outside of the ring in the entire company. And now he's getting his second shot in the main event right as fans are coming back. They want Kofi to win this. They want Kofi to win this. And if the crowd is white hot,
that's another thing on this pay-per-view. I don't think they're going to do this show in Houston and not give the fans some big feel-good, happy moment.
They're in a win-win situation here because they can either ride the lightning, judging based off the crowd reaction, because if this match is put in the prime position, the crowd will be white hot for it, just like they were Kofi and Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
They're going to want Kofi to win this match. And I think if the crowd is going white hot, you have 2 finishes. You have 2 finishes locked and loaded. And you whistle down to the ref if you think an audible needs to be made, that Kofi Kingston needs to shock the world and win this championship to get that massive pop in front of the live crowd, you pull the damn trigger. You absolutely pull the damn trigger.
Pull the trigger.
And Kofi gets the moment. Or you can say, F them fans, and you can get white hot nuclear heat on Bobby Lashley. And either way, WWE wins. Because they either have Kofi Mania 2, where the crowd is white hot behind him, or Bobby Lashley has just become the most hated MFer in all of the company. Either way, WWE wins. Either way, they win.
Either way, dude. So what's too bad about that here? We got a lot to jump into. We'll talk AEW and the WWE issues there. We'll talk about next week's Great American Bash. American Bash coming up, going to be a really big show. You want to jump into this clip with Tommaso Ciampa? You want to hold off on that?
So I had a chance to talk with Ciampa today. I did a little double dipping at work, which is why it looks a little different and it sounds a little different because I couldn't take my studio with me. So I literally just did it in our green screen room off of my laptop.
Okay.
So that's why it looks a little funky. But you know what? It was still a great conversation. So we talked to him about a myriad of things, including his partnership with Timothy Thatcher, working with MSK, which, by the way, never faced MSK before. So that's where we're going to start off here. I'm talking to him. It's like, look, if this was Johnny Gargano, this is another day at work for you. Getting in the ring with somebody you've never been in the ring with, that's an entirely different thing.
Mindset like when you are going to face an opponent for the first time? You know, obviously you wrestle, you know, Johnny Gargano. I mean, you guys obviously been there, done that. You have the chemistry. You're very comfortable with one another. How's that different now when you're going into a match with somebody you've never locked up with before?
So for me, there's an excitement to it because I love the unpredictability, and it's something I really was missing without having a big live crowd for the last year. Is I love adapting, and I love the improv that comes with having a live reaction. So it's a very similar setting when you're in there with an opponent for the first time. I'm really good at adapting and improving, and I can have a game plan, but also have a plan B, C, D, E, F, and I don't know that many other wrestlers have that. So for me, that's exciting. And I mean, sometimes you're in a zone in wrestling where like you kind of just confidence is high. Right now, Timmy and I that's where we're at. I mean, I don't think anyone's better than me. I genuinely don't. I don't think anyone in the world is better than me. I don't think they're better than me on the mic. I don't think they're better than me in the ring. I think I'm the best alive. And so for MSK, it's just kind of like, God damn. I mean, if you're in there with the best alive, you're kind of screwed. And that's pretty much how I feel. I just feel like, there's no offense. You've done great. You won the Dusty Classic. You're tag team champions. That's awesome. Congrats. And now you get to go home and take a break for a little while.
Yeah, and you know, your partnership with Timothy Thatcher has been something that's really been fun to watch come together. I think it's obviously a really natural fit, you two guys together. Did you realize that you had this chemistry with him right away?
Yes and no. So we had wrestled one time on Independence, and we had chemistry, and I knew that. We had a very common respect for each other. When he came to NXT, we just kind of didn't cross paths, and then we had those two matches, War Games and the Fight Pit. And obviously I knew we had chemistry as opponents because we're like-minded, we're similar styles. We pull out an aggression with one another and a grit that, you know, it makes it stand out. The tag thing, no, I had no clue because it's a very different dynamic than, you know, with Johnny. With Johnny, I always knew like, okay, well, Johnny is, you know, he's a hot tag guy, and he adds an element that I don't. He's got some flashiness to him, and he's different than me. So I knew we had like a yin and yang type thing. With Timmy, it was like, well, we're similar. We're very similar. And I didn't know if that was going to work or not. And then we had that first match with Undisputed Era with Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, and the bell rang. And I just remember looking back at him afterwards and being, hey, we got something. Like that, there's no doubt. We came back through the curtain, and I think Shawn Michaels was the first person I saw, and that was actually my quote to him. I was like, "I guess we have chemistry," and he just kind of like laughed and was like, "Yeah, no crap you do," and it's been that. It's been so easy, and I think one of the reasons is because there's no rookie in this team. There's no young guy trying to learn or keep up. It's like you took two stars who are very confident in who they are, and you just said, okay, now go do your thing. I don't have to worry about Timmy. Timmy doesn't have to worry about me. And that's a huge relief in a tag team when you're just kind of like, you have a trust right out of the gate. It's very helpful.
You brought up the couple of matches that you guys had together. I'm a huge fan of the Fight Pit. I love that match. I can't wait for Fight Pit 3. And Timmy's obviously the king of the Fight Pit right now. He's undefeated. What was that experience like for you, and how does the Fight Pit compare to other cage matches you might have been in?
So it was physical. I would love to do a Fight Pit in a big arena where there's screens. And the reason I say that is because the live element of it that I did not know was going to be missing until I got there it was in the CWC, and we're at the time super limited on how many people could be in the arena. And then the cage, you know, if you're fighting on top of the cage and there's not screens or anything, then no one can really see what's going on. as far as the live audience goes. And then when you come down into the cage, depending on where you are and obstructed view and stuff, I think for the performer, it's just one of those things where you're like, I didn't know in the moment what was going on, but I could feel a different energy. And now hindsight, when I look back, I'm like, oh, it probably wasn't the greatest experience as a viewer live because it just because of the handcuffs that were put on us. And I feel like if put that fight pit in a Barclays, put it in, an Allstate, put it in a bigger arena where people are seeing it in person live, they can follow it on the screens. I just think it's one of those things that could become something like crazy special. And Timmy and I have already talked quite a bit about that possibility of a first ever tag team fight pit. And it's just it's hard to not think about it, while you're doing it. And it's like, you just get the right opponents, right circumstance, right everything. And that could be special.
Again, Tuesday night, Great American Bash. You have a chance to become a 2-time NXT Tag Team Champion. Now, the first time he won those titles, that was alongside Johnny Gargano. And he has found himself in the hairs of, the crosshairs, shall I say, of Kariron Kross recently. That's a man you are not unfamiliar with. You were one of his first opponents in NXT. Kind of wanted to ask you about that match and your impressions of the current NXT champion.
I think I'm better than him. I'll say that. And it's hard to say that, I guess, when he beat me in under 6 minutes. I think he beat me at a time where I won't say I was easy to beat, but I wasn't at the top of my game. I came back from the neck surgery. I chased after Goldie. Adam Cole beat me with Johnny Gargano's assistance. Johnny Gargano beat me with Candice's assistance. And I just think I needed a break. And Kross it just lined up just right for him. And I think over the last year and a half, I'm sure he's developed. I've watched. He's had some good showings. But I'm back to being me. And I think if the time ever does come where we step in a ring together again, and it's Kariron Kross versus the Blackheart, the Psycho Killer, it'll be different.
Yeah, and we got to see Kariron Kross come back and claim the championship that he never lost. And to this point, I feel a little robbed that we haven't gotten to see more of that gold hungry Tommaso Ciampa chasing down his beloved Goldie. I mean, is that avenue still there to get back to that in the near future?
Near future, I don't know. I mean, it's if you asked me 6 months ago before this Timmy thing, I think I'd have a different answer. But sometimes you have to play the cards you're dealt, and Timmy and I are enjoying what we're being dealt right now. And it's not to say that I value the tag team titles more than the NXT title, but I also know that there's not a time frame on this. My career is not ending in the next 6 months or a year or 2 years. So I really, really, really enjoy what we're doing, and winning the tag team titles at the Great American Bash puts a real good stamp on us as a tag team. It kind of solidifies this duo. And then it gets fun, because then it becomes, how far can they push this? We did it with GYV. We pulled a great match out of Legado. We had a really good one with Undisputed Era. Now we have MSK. There's so many tag teams, to go. Imperium's still out there. There's a lot of good tag teams, not just in NXT, but even when I look around at Raw and SmackDown and NXT UK, there's just a lot of people I'd like to get in there with Timmy by my side and prove we're the best tag team there is.
Oh, isn't that just a great place to stop? Just right there. Just right there before everything goes down. Kevin's mic is still on mute.
I like that he calls him Timmy. I like that he says Timmy. Like he's just Timmy. A different, more dialed in Tommaso Ciampa. Not to say he wasn't dialed in when we saw him come back from this neck surgery, but that Kross statement. Kariron Kross is a guy that when people call him out recently, it seems like it's a lot more provocative than calling out many other people in wrestling.
He gets a lot of hate for some reason, man. I think it's very unwarranted. I like what I see out of Kariron Kross. I do.
But I also don't see hatred from Tommaso Ciampa, because, I mean, Kross beat him.
No, that is all confidence. And that came out crystal clear. By the way, that was just a tip of the iceberg, just a taste of a 21-minute conversation that I had with Tommaso, including a very entertaining SK six-pack that you guys will see on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel next week ahead of the Great American Bash, which is on Tuesday. And yes, we did talk about that comment of, oh, I'd rather retire than go to Raw or SmackDown, which he says was taken out of context. And yeah, we talked about the prospect of wrestling on Raw or SmackDown, because that's always the big question, right? How sick do you think the NXT people get of those questions of, oh, you want to go to Raw? You want to go to SmackDown? What do you think, man? What's going on? I hate asking those questions, but sometimes I will ask them just because we haven't really heard it publicly from a certain superstar. But once they get asked about 18 million times, how many, you know they get sick of it, man. You know they got to get sick of it.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
All Elite Wrestling is back in front of crowds. They've been back in front of crowds for quite some time. They did the Double or Nothing show, one of the best WWE non-WWE shows of the year, right? And that's what AEW is. They're the top non-WWE thing in wrestling right now,
without question.
But after this week's Dynamite, which is their first Dynamite back on Wednesdays in a long, long time, and man, do they need it. They got beat up by a very popular NBA playoff series this year. And they got moved to Friday nights, and they had to go on.
This was the one on Saturday, right? That we're about to talk about.
And they had that great Saturday night show, which did good, right? But they're still performing to far less the audience they normally would because of preemptions.
Before we get into what we're going to talk about, can I just say Jungle Boy is over as F right now. This dude is going to be a star for years to come. I don't care how many internet fanboys are pissed off that he's dating Anna Jay right now. But yeah, that guy is a star. I love the work that he's doing. I knew he wasn't going to win that match against Kenny Omega, but they did an excellent job of making me think he was going to win that match a couple of times. A couple of nice near falls that made you jump out of your chair. Just oh god, not quite as good as the false 3 count as we saw in the mixed tag team match, or not mixed, but the tag team match we saw on Wednesday night in the Young Bucks. But yeah, they did a really good job. Jungle Boy's got a very, very bright future ahead of him. I love what he's doing so far.
A lot of millennial Von Erich vibes with Jungle Boy when he's out there. Ladies fanning themselves when that long mane is bouncing around the ring. But the AEW, I know, and I don't want anyone to think, oh, here's Kev with his just trying to make me mad. And I'm an internet fan. I'm a part of the IWC, and you're saying something negative towards me and my community by staunch positions.
It's like we're our own company, the IWC. I'm the IWC champion. Is there a
how dare you join the IWC without a neck beard? Doesn't matter who you are, you have to have one. So AEW, do they have a WWE problem? And by that I don't mean they have too many guys that are from WWE. Do they have this issue where they just can't help themselves and not bring up the WWE? I'm not, this isn't a major critique. Maybe it is, right? And it isn't one specific thing. Jim Ross, beloved broadcaster this week, made a slight faux pas that the internet just went they got very, very mad at. They were acting like a dog in a yard, and you're just running the fence. You run a stick on the fence, and you're just driving this dog crazy. And that was Jim Ross said WWE Dynamite.
Yeah, to close out the show after a great video package outlining the last 18 months, at Daly's place or however long they've been there now, and
the timing is particularly the timing is particularly bad in all these things.
Dude, we have a unique take on this because we're in the broadcasting industry where we change companies, we change stations all the time. I do news for God knows how many different radio stations, I've done in a day. I think I've done 8 different radio stations I've done news for in one single day. That's a lot of different call letters, folks. And by call letters, I mean the difference between WLW and WWVA and WSPD and WTVN and WTAM and all these different stations in Ohio and West Virginia. It's a lot to keep straight.
Mountain Mama.
It is. It's a lot to keep straight. And sometimes you screw up. Now, I have the lucky ability of being on, tape for a lot of these things. So when I do screw up the call letters, I can go back and I can edit it. But when you're live, sometimes shit just happens. And good old JR, who has been calling WWE for God knows what, 25, 30 years he was there with the company, maybe longer. It's fried into his brain. It is so hard for him to say AEW over WWE because he's been saying WWE for so damn long. And Kevin, you know this, man.
Yeah.
We don't read our out cues. They're burned into our skull.
You do them.
It's second nature. We just rip it off. Our next update at 6:30. I'm Rick Ucchino on News Radio 700 WLW. You just rip that shit off.
This entire hour of 90s throwbacks is brought to you by Grow Big Hydroponics in Chesney Park on Willow Creek Road behind Menards. Find them online at growbighydroinc.com. Like that?
Exactly. Like that. You just rip that shit off. It's second nature. So yeah, it's really hard. I guarantee it's hard for JR to say AEW as opposed to WWE. So you know what, man? I'm just saying, JR, I still love you, man. He's a great guy to talk to. We both had the chance to interview him. The pleasure.
Yeah, I had an incredible interview with him. That's in our podcast feed that you can check out now. Where you had this too. You got 15 minutes. Is what you have with
45 later.
And you're under this tree, and he's telling you all these incredible stories, and I'm just like, and then the calls of people like, get him off the show.
There were
you got to get him off there.
There were some. I saw the people tweeting at this point he's a detriment to the show. Is he? Is he really? Now I wonder how many of that is the younger crowd who is ingrained with JR from back in the day.
What this is like I said, this is an ageist thing, man. This is an ageist thing. There is something going on, and I can say this as a guy who's in his 30s, right? That there is something going on with people under the age of 25 in wrestling, where it can only be special if it's this young person is suddenly the top person in the business out of nowhere, and they're the best, and they're the thing you have to pay attention to, and nothing else matters because you're so ingrained with so much social media, you have so many options. Well, I'm just going to get behind this thing, and if you're not with this thing, it's the us versus them aspect of it, and they're so ingrained in them, and for them, Jim Ross is WWE, and that's it, and we don't want to let it go. But really, Jim Ross is so much more than WWE. His career is so much more than that. He's so ingrained in the characters and the storytelling of this business. And my thing is, like, if anyone can make that mistake and shouldn't have to suffer for it, it is Jim Ross.
Yeah. And people are having fun with it. And I think, you saw the Young Bucks in their new bio today. And it's okay to have fun with it. He made a mistake. It was silly. It was goofy. It was one of those things that was very, very noticeable.
But it's that holier than thou gatekeeping BS that makes wrestling this bubble island thing. Like, guys, we're getting back out in the world. There's going to be kids in the crowd who didn't get to go to wrestling for the last year and a half. And I'm going to have fun, like, riffing with them and having fun and like, bowing at each other. But this idea of, like, if you're this old, you shouldn't be in wrestling. And if you're this, you can't be in wrestling. But wrestling needs more of this. And if you don't have that, then you're not an acceptive, inclusive company. But don't give me someone who's old. And don't give me someone who's this. And don't tell me I'm going to watch WWE because I don't watch WWE. I watch my faves. I watch for my faves. That BS, that cop out you do. Shut up. You're going to watch SummerSlam. You know you're going to watch SummerSlam. Don't say, well, I've just followed it online. Screw you. You know what you're doing.
I think part of the issue that some younger fans have with JR, it's the same thing. Like, if you talk to people today and they say, well, who's the greatest quarterback of all time? If like a 25-year-old had that conversation with, a 60-year-old, you'd sit there.
Tom Brady.
They're going to say Tom Brady. They're going to say Aaron Rodgers. They're going to say Peyton Manning. And the guy's going to come back and go with, well, what about Bernie Kosar? Well, what about Johnny Unitas? Or what about
what that person's going to come back with? Who?
Exactly.
Who?
Oh, look at the stats, man. Look at the stats. They can't compare. It's the same thing.
You know what? You
didn't grow up with it. You don't know. You didn't watch the guy play, and looking up stats on the internet is going to give you the whole story.
All time, dude. All time.
So, you know what?
Time.
You know what I want to do today? I want. JR made a goof last night. There's not. Again, he owned it. He made a mistake. He's going to make more of them. We're all.
Is that the biggest? I heard someone say this is the biggest botch, and AEW's history is the biggest. No. The biggest botch was the exploding barbed wire death match. That's the biggest botch.
Or Jericho falling out of the crash pad. One of those two.
Like the Matt Hardy issue. This is nothing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: like, you were back in front of fans. You had the show back on Wednesday nights. You have this incredible talent, and I'm calling all of you out. Get the F over yourself. You are so spoiled in a pandemic where multi-billion-dollar sports leagues have struggled to keep their product on the field, struggled to keep it out there. And now you have it back in front of you, full force. You're in Jacksonville. You had this world-class company presenting great matches in front of you in your backyard, but you're so jaded and you're so in your own thing. You can't just step out and see, like, man, what would it be like for that 15-year-old kid who's like, hey, JR is really cool. I'm a young wrestling fan. I bet he's awesome. And he is.
You know what I want to do? Instead of focusing on JR's gaffe last night, which was what it is, I want to celebrate JR. 19 years ago today, July 1st, 2002, Monday Night Raw. Jeff Hardy versus The Undertaker.
Great match.
For the undisputed WWE Heavyweight Championship of the world. I talked about it earlier, man. Started watching wrestling in 1998. I grew up as the Hardys and Edge and Christian, as their careers blossomed, as they grew up. I grew up as a person. Those are my guys. They're always my guys. 13-year-old me is watching that match, losing his effing mind, because I actually think there is a chance that my dude, Jeff Hardy, is going to win the WWE Championship. And you know who helped sell that? JR. And he dropped, in my opinion, the best damn call he has ever made in his life. Jeff Hardy grabs the chair, knockout shot to Taker, back when you could hit people in the head with a chair. And there goes JR, the knockout shot. Hot water, kid. Make yourself famous. Gives me goosebumps.
Yes, make yourself famous, kid.
Famous. Gives me goosebumps right now thinking about it. Everybody talks about, the Mick Foley jumping off. By God, they killed him.
By God. My God is my witness. He is broken in half.
That's great. And that is one of the best calls of all time. But for me, it is climb the ladder, kid. Make yourself famous. Gave me goosebumps. I'm losing my mind. I'm running all over the damn living room. My dad's yelling at me like, what the hell are you doing? Because it's like 11 o'clock at night. And Jeff Hardy, he was right there. They made Jeff Hardy that night, and Jim Ross helped make Jeff Hardy that night. It happened 19 years ago today. Best call, in my opinion, that JR has ever made. Thank you, JR, because that was a moment I will never forget.
There was an off-color. I mean, you bring up, by God, as a witness, he's broken in half, the Hell in a Cell match, right? The Stone Cold Steve Austin era has begun, and all these different things. Jezebel and all that stuff he would work in. There was an off-color line he did one time when Triple H was on his run in the early 2000s as the top villain in the business. He was the Roman Reigns then, right? Yeah. And he was doing something with I can't even remember who he was doing it with. He had a sledgehammer and he was really going to injure somebody. He was just going to maim him, right?
Sure,
the idea was that Triple H was going to end somebody's career with this, right? And just totally destroy him. And Jim Ross gets this over because we've seen at that point, you've seen, him pull out the sledgehammer, he hits you in the gut, and he wins matches, right? But this wasn't a match. He's really going to hurt somebody with this, right? And it got over with me, and I'm a jaded wrestling fan at that point. I'm enjoying it, but what's going to really sink it in, right? What's really going to get this steak on the grill cooking is JR saying, he's got a family. He's got a family. He's not calling the match anymore. He's not describing what you're saying. He's at this point yelling to Triple H, he's got a family. He has a family. You don't have to do this to him. And I was like, I'm in. I'm on board. Triple H is no good son of a bitch. Don't do that with the sledgehammer, Triple H. And it was just the passion that he has for it is so evident, and the knowledge he has is so vast and articulated. And if this is something you think of when this little issue, then really you just want to see something fall. I don't think you want to see a statue built. You want to see one fall down.
And I think that's what I think a lot of people they like to see people fail, or they you always like to say, oh well, you're not as good as you once were. JR knows that. He said that, but he's still Jim effing Ross. And until he no longer wants to call matches, I'm having him on my damn show. I'm having him on my show because you know what? He still has some classic calls left in him. He still brings value to AEW. He helps bring in that older audience. Really, truly, he does. He was the voice of a childhood for a lot of people, and I'm one of them. You're one of them. Occasionally, he's going to screw up and say WWE Dynamite. Who gives a shit? Who cares? Some people are having fun with it. Some people need to start having fun with it. And stop taking things so seriously. It's just
remember that's why you're watching wrestling.
Yeah, you like it, right?
Yeah, that's why you're watching.
Supposed to be it. Let's talk about a big swerve, or should
big swerve, baby?
A swerve, Scott, on NXT this week, knocking off Bronson Reed to win the North American Championship. They didn't do this match at Great American Bash next week. This was impromptu. It was, I want you, let's go. We're meeting in the ring. And Bronson drops it after like 40 days as the champion. This was heralded, man, as like his big crowning achievement after 14 years in WWE.
And they treated like a big deal. He won it in the cage.
And I talked to him and he said, hey, look, I want this title run to be what RVD did for the ECW TV title. That's what I want out of this. I want a big, massive, long, important, talked about run.
Plans change, pal.
Yep. And I don't think that this is any coincidence whatsoever with the fact that he's been working main event, that he's been doing some dark matches with Vince there. I think this is a slam dunk, no duh. Bronson Reed is going to be called up to either Raw or SmackDown in the very, 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 very near future, with the fact that they just dropped that title off of him.
You mean Bronzilla? Bronzilla is going to be called up to.
Oh, please just don't turn him into Brodus Clay. Just don't do it. I've that's always been my nightmare is that Vince would see Bronson Reed and go, okay, let's get him some dancing girls. Let's get him some disco music. So somebody call my mama. That's always been my biggest fear with Bronson Reed when he got up to the main roster. I'm just let him be him. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's the biggest thing.
You know who they're letting be their own thing?
These guys were successful in NXT. Just let them be themselves when they come up, please.
Transition. You know they're letting be their own thing. Hit Row, I think, is an immediately, for lack of a better phrase, hit faction.
Yeah,
a hip hop driven group where they're all legitimately into hip hop music, and they're all around Swerve as his posse. And that crew was over in the pre-match promo where they convinced him to do this. They have their record. They show up on camera. They get their gimmick in. They have a legitimate song. Swerve is a legitimate hip-hop fan. And now he is, in my eyes, I've said this before, he's the Randy Orton of NXT. He's got his evolution. He's got his mind games. He used to be a super fast wrestler, but now you see him slow it down. Breathe in. Let him take in the moment. Let it. And now when he does everything, it does it spring to action like a snake, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And he's doing some things that are so much. He's getting so much more out of doing only a little bit of what he did before. I think Swerve came into his own. It is a curveball, a Swerve, to put the title on him now because we have Bash next week. But give it up to NXT. Hey, week-to-week wrestling. We're going to make this interesting. Tune in Tuesday nights. If we're not the number one show, we're going to leave you talking and saying we should be the number one show at the end of the night.
Anything can happen. Literally.
And a great match, too. A really great match.
Of course it was. I love when he was sitting on him, when he was on the apron. That was hilarious.
Apron stuff scares me.
And Bronson, man, he killed the rest of Hit Row. Like, he destroyed those dudes. Straight up murdered some dudes. And then, yeah, he gets caught in the ring. I really hope that this is Bronson Reed being called up, because if they just decided to go with the hot hand with nothing else planned for Bronson, I feel bad for the dude. I do. But I think he's getting called up. I wouldn't be surprised if Kariron Kross happens sooner rather than later as well. But you got to figure out how to get the title off of him, because he has looked absolutely unstoppable. I think if they started doing this 4 weeks ago, Kross would have lost that multi-man match.
Yeah. And maybe, you know, things, like I said, plans change, pal. Things move. And we have NXT Great American Bash. This Swerve comes before WWE's doing basically a pay-per-view on free television. And that's what we're getting here. Yep. They haven't announced this, but I could see them adding more matches in some way, to like digitally or doing a pre-show or something like that. Have they gone that route? Have they nailed anything down in that regard? Am I wrong?
They got 4 big ones here. Maybe they'll add something else. But
it's a 2-hour show. They're going to stay within that 2 hours.
I wouldn't be shocked if they, especially after what we saw on Tuesday night, I wouldn't be surprised if they added Kross and Gargano, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, what an angle there too. That was a really funny.
Yeah, or maybe I did love Samoa Joe like literally pulling Johnny Gargano to safety, like he was gonna get like Kross just had no. I'm sitting there, he's driving the car, he's gonna run that sumbitch over, and then there's Joe just holding him up like, I think you went too far, kid. Or whatever the heck Joe said. It was so damn good. I did ask Tommaso Ciampa about Samoa Joe's return, and you're going to want to hear his answer. Trust me on that one, by the way.
Oh, good. Well, that brings this up. Samoa Joe back on NXT. He's not an in-ring competitor, but an enforcer.
Yet
to get control for William Regal, he inserted himself into the very revived, very bitter issue between former stablemates and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, an unsanctioned match once again. And Samoa Joe will certainly be on hand for this. He's kind of been the third wheel in this storyline. They didn't just go with Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole hate each other. They've added Joe to this. And I think this match is more a setup for getting Joe back in the ring faster than we expect.
Man, it would make sense to kind of build up to it. Maybe he does fight Adam Cole first, if and when he does get cleared. I don't know how soon he's going to get cleared, and who knows if he is going to get cleared, but they've definitely been laying the seeds there. There's something
he said it this week in an interview with Ryan Satin. I'm going to wrestle again, and
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
He plans to wrestle again, and he told me that very same thing earlier this year. Yeah. But I don't get as much pub as Ryan Satin does. Anyway, so you know how it is.
Yeah.
But so I could see Joe getting involved here. Maybe he gets provoked by Adam Cole. I think Kyle O'Reilly is going to win. I think that's the right call. Maybe it sets up Adam Cole and Samoa Joe. And maybe that's how they write Cole off. Because if they're looking for dudes to come up to the main roster and help fill out where, they need people.
Come on. You're in Bebe and big arenas now? Come on. Adam Cole comes out and does the big Bebe.
And I know Adam Cole will preach this until the end of time, that there's still plenty on NXT that he can do. Man, it's hard. We've noticed it because they bring in fresh guys and new people all the time. It's not the developmental brand, but they still develop people on that show. And we're starting to see the guys like Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Tommaso Ciampa, these guys who have been here for a very, very long time. It's like, well, how do we keep these guys relevant while also bringing in new guys and elevating them? At some point, you got to try your hand and see how these guys work out on the main roster. I think Adam Cole would be great on a SmackDown or a Monday Night Raw, to be completely honest with you.
All right, let's zip through it. MSK versus Tommaso Ciampa, Timothy Thatcher for the NXT Tag Team Championships. We got to talk to Tommaso Ciampa a little bit. We'll obviously roll out that full interview in a few days here. Keep an eye on our channel for it. Who do you got?
God dang, man. I don't know. This is flip a coin.
For me, it's time to take you can take the belts off MSK. I'm okay with it.
I mean,
they've gotten what they need out of it.
They just won the damn things.
I know, but I still think in this day and age, it isn't the 90s where someone needs to keep the belt for months and months and months. You need to keep your weekly television interested.
I wouldn't be mad if this was a rivalry that was kind of like Sasha Banks and
keep it going,
where they just keep it going and they're trading the titles back and forth over and over, eventually leading to that tag team fight pit match. I think that would be a great way to go. So maybe I'll you might talk me into it. I'll go with Ciampa and Thatcher.
If we get that fight pit match, and once he said that to me, I was like, oh boy. When he said it to you, I was like, oh boy. I was like, I'm on board.
You probably couldn't tell because I looked terrible in that video, but yeah, I was pretty giddy.
NXT Women's Tag Team Championship match, The Way, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell taking on Zoe Stark and Io Shirai. Stark and Shirai winning this title opportunity this past week on NXT television. Who do you got? I think The Way keep these belts with some shenanigans, and maybe this sets up some personal issues with Zoe Stark and Shirai. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, I like that as well. God, for the sake of the country of Australia, I hope that Indy Hartwell hangs on to it. They already just nipped Bronson Reed in the bud right there. So I'll root for Candice and Indy. Candice waited so long to be a champion. I think they need a nice long run. So yeah,
I miss the Dexter Lumis Indy Hartwell they can't be together, love affair, because The Way doesn't want her to date Dexter storyline. I know they kind of alluded that it's over with, right? But I thought that was really, really entertaining character stuff for NXT that they don't get to do a lot. I enjoyed that.
I liked it. I'm down.
The big money match, the $1 million championship. is on the line. If Cameron Grimes cannot win this match, if he cannot stomp down, he will become LA Knights. Yeah. LA Knights. Yeah. Butler. He'll become his butler. LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes. These guys had one of the best singles one-on-one ladder matches I've seen in many, many, many years. At the last takeover, I loved it. They have chemistry, but this just feels like it's set up for Cameron Grimes, a kind of high working level Santino Marella for WWE in the modern day. He is quite the comedy character to become a butler.
Yeah, I think LA Knight wins this. I think it would almost be pointless for LA Knight to win the ladder match, take out Ted DiBiase, and then just hot shot it right to Cameron Grimes. So I think there's a lot of interesting and funny and hilarious things that you could do. There's also some bad things you could probably do. So you got to walk a fine line here. With Cameron Grimes kind of falling out and being, the butler and the servant and this, that, and the other thing. So yeah, I'll go with LA Knight on this one.
I think you're right. I think it's the way to go. And that's a pretty stacked show. I mean, I don't know if this is takeover level, but I don't think it needs to be. It has a Clash of the Champions, big, extra big TV show vibe to it. And I think that's what they're going for. I do think we're going to get some type of announcement for what they want to do with TakeOver later this summer, maybe this week. And that's a bigger NXT show to make that announcement. And NXT is saying they're going to go back on the road. Maybe we get more of a clarification on what they're going to do, if they're going to do stuff with fans here on this show too. They have waited quite some time to add NXT to the fold of fans can see NXT again. Raw and SmackDown obviously are the priorities for the company. I understand that, but I would hope there's some big NXT announcements on the show as well. I think that there's a possibility of that. I'm not saying they're going to happen, but this is a show where you would want to make those announcements in terms of timing coming up here. I'm looking forward to it. We got a lot coming up. Smack Talk dropping Friday night with Dutch Mantel.
Me and Jeremy Bennett's going to be in for SP3. It's his turn to go out on a wedding weekend. It's that time of the year, baby. That time of the year. Love is in the air. People are actually going out and getting married and whatnot. So I think there's a lot more weddings this year than there were.
Yes. Well, all the weddings.
In a typical year because everybody pushed it off. So
yeah, dude, I think I'm going to like six or seven weddings this year.
I had like 2 on the same weekend.
I'm going to the same wedding venue twice. I'm going to the same venue twice. Different weddings.
I went to the same wedding venue 3 years in a row for my friend's wedding, for my wedding, and then another friend's wedding. Like we all went and we all liked that place, so we just all chose that. No. Advertising, baby, it works. Yes, so you'll see me and Jeremy Bennett and Dutch Mantel tomorrow night. And don't forget, my entire interview with Tommaso Ciampa is going to drop, I believe, on Monday. So keep an eye on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel, and hell, do more than that. Subscribe while you're there.
Subscribe, dude. Also, if you guys like our stuff and other wrestling fans, you're consuming many other wrestling channels. We know that. You're gonna watch and enjoy a bunch of wrestling stuff.
Only watch us.
Only watch us. Don't even. There is nothing else but us.
Could you imagine?
Okay, we are all about upheaval. We want to destroy the established wrestling order and assume the throne. We want to go into
take over.
We're going to the Wrestling Media Museum and we're knocking over the bronze statue of Dave Meltzer, and we're saying, now it is us. It is our time. And then we'll have to put the statue back up.
Later this year, I am going to make Sean Ross Sapp tap out. So I mean that's going to happen at some point. He can talk all that trash that I'm gonna kick Sean Ross Sapp's ass later this year. That's
wait, what prompted this? Because I also have an issue with Sean Ross Sapp.
Oh no, we're just gonna wrestle. We're gonna drag down fight. Like this is on. We've been planning this for a while. This is
okay. All right, you're booking yourself, huh?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I'm undefeated. Don't you know that?
All right. Well, the hotel lobby for AEW All Out's gonna be interesting.
That might be where we do it.
Yes.
We'll just do it.
Hyatt Regency.
That's really bad if you take that out of context.
I'm going to be doing, I think my 6th and 7th. 4 comedy shows. Friday and Saturday night at the Comedy Shrine and Comedy Museum at the Fox Valley Mall in Aurora, Illinois. Coming up here July 2nd and July 3rd. If you guys are listening to this, check out my comedy stuff. I'm also beginning playing Shuba's Rock Room in coming up on July 22nd, and I'll be a part of AAW, the best independent pro wrestling in the world. Going to be back on pay-per-view with Fight.tv. United We Stand July 9th. Go to my Twitter. It's all up there at Kev Kellam. Rick, they can follow you in the Twitter machine. Where do they go?
Yes. In fact, I already, if you take down the thing, they can see my Twitter handle right here. You always,
I'm sorry.
You always block the thing.
I'm pushing our YouTube. I'm taking care of the main ship here.
All right, the channel's fine. We plugged them enough. Let's plug ourselves. Follow him on Twitter at Kev Kellam. You can follow me at Rick Ucchino, spelled as you see twice in front of you. Already did hit my year goal for 2021. So now we're pushing on to next year's goal. So let's keep doing it. And I appreciate everybody who follows along. And again, you're going to see more of my interview with Tommaso Ciampa before anybody else if you follow me on Twitter at Rick Ucchino.
There you go. Remember, when watching wrestling, pressing all the buttons, screaming about how you did not say the correct branding, calm down.
Watch more of us on Fightful.com. I'm sorry. Watch more of us.
You just revealed the buyout. Dude. You just screwed the deal.
I'm probably gonna get yelled at for that, but I'm okay. I had to do it.
It's not happening. That's a bit. Just so no one runs off with that. We're goofing. We're an hour and 25 minutes into talking about wrestling.
I gotta go pick up my kids. Let's wrap this up.
We're out of here. We'll see you guys. Enjoy wrestling.